Good morning, colleagues from across the globe. My name's Kerry Jones, and first of all, I'd like to sincerely thank our friends and colleagues at the Daisy Foundation for inviting us here this morning to talk with you. Obviously, we're devastated that we can't be there in person, but in this COVID world, we've all learned to adapt and do things differently. So here goes. So at the same time as the world has seen the exceptional value of nursing, we still, don't we, as this global nursing family, face a growing challenge. We know we haven't got enough nurses and we need more, but we also know that we're losing some of our valued colleagues from the profession, no matter what country that we work in. So how do we retain different generations of nurses as we move forward into a very different post-COVID world? Doing business differently. You might ask, what has this got to do with recognition? Well, as a nurse midwife for 40 years, a researcher, a Magnet and Pathway to Excellence programme director, a nurse leader, and interestingly as a mum, my experience now tells me it has everything to do with it. In the next 10 minutes, I hope to share with you the why and how meaningful recognition is an essential ingredient which can rapidly flip the culture, securing positive practice environments that address the motivational needs of all generations of nurses and give us a much better chance of retaining them in this incredible profession. To do this, I'm going to take you on a whistle-stop tour of relevant job satisfaction theory. Don't worry, at this time in the morning, it's a whistle-stop. Why expectations of work and career are changing. And because meaningful recognition is so critical to flipping the way we do business, alongside Carolyn, I'll share with you how the NHS in England is beginning to prioritise meaningful recognition from policy to practice. Whilst there are multiple theories related to job satisfaction, scholars agree that job satisfaction is a multidimensional and psychological response. We form attitudes towards our job by interpreting our own feelings, beliefs, and behaviours. To help us think about that a little bit more, think about that good day at work. The day someone reacted in a way that you knew you'd made a difference. Felt good, didn't it? Or that bad day, when despite all your hard work, effort, and going the extra mile, the only thing that was fed back to you was the one thing you didn't have time to do. How many of us have made a decision to leave a job because of one defining emotional moment? A small thing, something someone said or did that made you ask yourself, what am I doing here? What's the point? Does anyone actually value me? That point is where you psychologically disconnected from the organisation and began to open your eyes to other opportunities. So if we look at what we need to consider to prevent those moments, we can find the answer in the seminal work on job satisfaction from decades ago, as early as the 60s actually. And you'll recognise that most of the research today on nurse retention gives focus to these very same things. We need to see the meaningfulness of our work, the significance of it. We need to have job control, to have flexibility, and to be able to influence how the work is done. And we need to know the outcome of our contribution. Did I add value, or actually simply, what difference have I made? So in the busy world of healthcare, with our focus on risk and performance, might we sometimes be disproportionate in our focus on what's not so good, what needs to improve, and what we didn't do so well today? I would argue that yes, we must engender a learning culture and a culture of learning from our mistakes so we can continually improve. But how much can we learn from what works well? What is successful? and what we've achieved despite the complexity and challenges of the context we work in. Just stop to think about that for a moment. The complexity, the challenges, but wow, what we deliver despite this. Aren't nurses and the teams that they work with amazing? I would propose that if we are to promote job satisfaction at scale, we will need to redress our retention challenge and begin the path to doing nursing business differently. Enhancing job satisfaction, job control, and critically validating and reinforcing the value of the work individuals and the teams they work with do through various forms of feedback that are meaningful and joyful. And there's another reason why this is so critical. Several years ago, I led 2 national studies exploring early career retention. At that time, as nurse leaders, we were really puzzled. We're asking ourselves, why are we seeing such high levels of leavers in the early career period? And of course, the answer was staring us in the face. We just hadn't spotted it. What we were seeing was a change in expectations related to work and career in our new recruits that we simply weren't addressing. This work highlighted differing generational expectations and motivations that were often in conflict with the way we were doing business. And for this next section, I'm going to give you a health warning. I'm going to talk in stereotypes, but of course, none of us are stereotypes. But I'm bringing together the kind of global literature on generational typologies to help you understand the importance of changing the way we do business. Now I'm going to talk about younger generations. And often we hear negative talk about younger generations, don't we? That's actually undeserved and unfounded. Our younger generations are truly amazing, and I personally have learnt so much from them. But actually, we just need to understand each other. So to help to do that, I'm going to tell you the story of Alex. Alex is a stereotypical millennial. But hopefully his life journey will help you understand why sometimes he wonders if he's in the right job and thinks about testing either a new career or a new organisation. So, Alex goes to school and he's told by his baby boomer parents, go for it. You can be anything in life you want to be. So he's full of confidence. And his baby boomer parents were quite demanding of teachers because they wanted to know how he was doing. And this is where education started to change. Teachers started to give regular feedback, not just periodic, but every day, all the time, so that the pupils, as well as their parents, knew how they were progressing and what they needed to do to be even better. Alex came 8th in the walking race and he got a certificate. And that's fantastic, because what that taught him was, actually, keep trying and I'll do even better next time. It motivated him. So Alex was often recognised and rewarded for participation, not necessarily achievement, and that's a great thing. And at that time, education started to change. Problem solving was encouraged in teams, so Alex learnt the value of a team. But he also learned the importance of his own contribution and how that would connect with his colleagues or his fellow pupils to solve the problem and to make things better. He also knew that in a team, everyone should have a voice and that voice to be heard. And so he then has learned to problem solve using that team-based approach. And he's also been used to having continuous feedback to let him know how well he's done, but also how he can be even better next time. Alex then went off to university, and he might have up to 3 professional careers in a lifetime because, the nature of knowledge and its accessibility now means people can change career fairly readily. He's ambitious and he's career motivated. He's got great aspirations, but he does expect support to achieve. He does expect his employer to help him to progress and to ensure he's got the tools to do the job. However, he's less bound to role or employer, because if he's motivated and he has all those things that support him to do a great job and to progress, then he'll stick around. However, if this isn't there, he's very brave, as are the rest of his generation. So he won't stick around. He will look for something else where he's valued or where he's supported to do that great job and to progress in his career. Alex is really hard working. However, he's seen his baby boomer parents working weekends, taking work home, and he doesn't want to be the same. Alex talks about life balance, not work-life balance. And it's really important for him to see how his work life contributes to his life as a whole. And interestingly for Alex, if work or career start to impact upon that holistic view of his life, again, he'll think twice about sticking around. Alex expects to be valued and recognised. Now that doesn't mean he expects to have a prize every day, but what Alex does expect is somebody to check in at the end of the day. You did okay today. I saw that. You did that really well. What might help you next time is, he wants to have a voice because actually he brings to the table experience of his own, and also he brings together knowledge, brings to the table knowledge. He actually wants to work with you, not for you. And finally, Alex is very mission driven. He wants a sense of accomplishment. He wants to know that what he's done has made a difference. Younger generations are known to be global citizens, and they want to see that what they do contributes not just to the greater good of the local community, but also to society as a whole. So, interestingly then for Alex, he then goes into a workplace, and sometimes he might not always get that feedback. So if I've been used to regular motivational feedback and suddenly this is removed, I'm left wondering. I naturally think that if no one has told me I've done a good job, I perhaps have done a bad one. I focus on the things I didn't do so well, and I question myself, my value and my ability. And this begins to scratch away at my confidence. Alex thinks, should I stay or should I go? And also, if I'm mission driven and the value of my contribution isn't validated in some way, would it be better for me to do something different? The second research that we did built on the first by investigating the motivational needs of different generations of nurses. And what's interesting here is that when we explored the key determinants of job satisfaction, we found that whilst there were some generational nuances, there were also 6 key things that were important to all generations. If you want to address job satisfaction, the first 3 things here, supportive working conditions, systems of governance, and acceptable pay, status and security, would keep the noise down. It's these other 3 things that actually drove that sense of engagement and job satisfaction. Enhanced professional autonomy, opportunity for growth and advancement through education and career development, and look at that, meaningful recognition. It was absolutely central to job satisfaction in this work. So can you here see the similarity with the findings of the seminal research? Knowing that we are doing a good job and that what we are doing is meaningful and has value is so critical. And this is why meaningful recognition is key to changing the way we do business. We need to focus on and celebrate the good. In both Caroline's and my own experience, we found that going large on recognition is the first point of call to flip the focus in an organisation, creating a positive culture on which then to address those other key areas that elevate and celebrate the role of the registered nurse. And we've both witnessed rapid improvements in retention rates based on this approach. Caroline often reminds me of the day we sat together at an event and recognised that by beginning to do business differently, incredible changes in engagement and retention of our nurses were mirrored in our organisations. We sat there and we looked at each other, and that in that defining moment, we said, this works, doesn't it? This really works. Recognition is currently being prioritised across the NHS in England, and we can see examples of this from policy to practice. In the English NHS, we now have a people promise, reflecting what we can expect from working in the NHS. This is based on what staff said mattered to them, and you will see to be recognised and rewarded is core to this promise. Leading by example, the Chief Nursing Officer for England has her own recognition programme, conferring gold and silver awards to nurses across the country. But of course, it's the day-to-day experience that is critical. Knowing you did a good job, maintaining that positive attitude, the one that drives job satisfaction and retention. So colleagues, I hope that's given you some of the background as to why meaningful recognition is critical to doing business differently and promoting retention of our valuable nursing workforce. But of course, it's the day-to-day recognition, the stuff that you experience every single day in that local practice environment that makes the greatest difference. So Caroline is now going to share with you the ways in which she does that in her own organisation. Thank you, Caroline, and thank you for listening, colleagues.